G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Those of you familiar with my channel will be aware that I live in a fairly remote location. More or less out on the fringes of a society into which I do not fit. As I've been known to suggest, my life is a little bit like a perpetual camping trip. And therefore, over the years, I've learned to cook my meals on camping stoves. So, here in the foreground is the stove which my parents gave to me for Christmas in 1978. I was 17 years old. To open it, one has to depress spring catches, both front and back. This example has had its burners and brass plumbing removed because I was trying to get a new hose to resurrect it, when its original gas hose blew out after, as you can see, years and years and years of slowly leaking a rich mix of LPG into the underside of the stove, as attested by the fuel-rich staining of the orange enamel. As you can see, it has foldable interior legs, yielding a stove which had windshields on both sides, a fold-down toaster, as well as a cast aluminium grill for the meat eaters amongst us. Also, fairly importantly to me, because this was the stove I was using when I put the hut together, therefore it was fairly important for the layout of the kitchen that the gas delivery pipe make its exit from the stove on the left front, purely to suit the geometry of the kitchen. So, when on New Year's Eve 2015, 21 years after some nasty person maliciously and nefariously loosened the connection which caused the gas leak, which caused the staining from the fuel-rich mixture from the leaking hose end, when it turned out that I couldn't purchase a hose to fit a 37-year-old gas stove, I had a look at what was available in the shops these days, and that was a one of these. However, the contemporary two-burner replacement folding camping stove has its gas hose outlet right in the middle of the right-hand lower side, exactly in more or less the worst position for my kitchen, because it was approximately 2/3 of a metre from a 120 to 150 degrees Celsius exterior flue pipe for the wood-fired heater inside the hut. Therefore, a bit over a year and a half ago, instead of buying a new one, I went looking in my mother's garage and I found this, which I think belonged to a cousin of mine who died on a motorcycle when he was 25, and I think his little brother inherited it, and I'm pretty sure he gave that to my son. It may be a newer design, it's certainly a fair bit simpler. It features a lock contrived from the legs which fold down. It still has a separate folding carry handle. However, the interior is greatly different. You will note the ad hoc impromptu attempt at repairing the hose blowout on this one, which happened after only 15 months in service, due to an idiosyncrasy in the design which caused the hose to have a steel shield, a heat shield presumably, shrunk onto it to protect the hose from abrasion as it exited through that slot there. And when this one failed, it failed through an apparent chemical decomposition of the hose where it joined the steel heat shield. And of course, when I first noticed the failure, which was heralded by a sort of excrescence of green rubberized decomposed slime, I only noticed that it had failed on the outside. However, as soon as I attempted to use it after my repair, it started leaking from the other side. So this thing just did a complete failure. Maybe the olive oil that I use caused some kind of a catalytic reaction. But here's one reason why I find this particular stove to be something of a negative progression. Do you see that sloping angle there? They place it so that by making such a manoeuvre as that, you can lock a tab on the end of there into a hole on there, and it holds the windshield up. The other side has a similar mechanism, and it also has a folding toaster. So anyway, when this thing, which may be older or younger than the companion Safari, which I received in 1978, finally died after 37 years of fairly heavy use compared to your average camping stove. When this died, I had to borrow this from my daughter, which, as you can see, appears to be an updated model of this companion Ranger. Utilising, as it does, the exact same fold away feet which become a lock to hold the folded case in place. And also we see a very, very similar lock for the windshields. As supplied, this one had no facility for toasting, but that's because Oztrails these days sells a collapsible toasting accessory in the same shop that they sell the stoves. So they no longer fit an inbuilt folding toaster into the stoves, they just sell you a separate toaster. Personally, I had a few old pieces of gauze there, so I retrofitted the borrowed camping stove with a toaster. As you can see, everything has been simplified in the interests of production engineering and lowering manufacturing costs. This entire cooking trivet is entirely removable, and the gas hose is stowed underneath the burners. And as I said, it installs on the right hand side, which was initially going to be a bit of a problem for me in my installation. So allowing for my suspicion that the companion Ranger is actually older than the companion Safari, I'm going to say that this might demonstrate in excess of 40 years worth of evolution of folding camping stoves on sale in Australia, comprising 37 years of experience cooking on the companion Safari, and then a year and a half cooking on the companion Ranger, and finally I've had about 3 weeks on the Oztrail 2-burner folding gas stove. And one thing I would really like to leave you with before we move on from these old stoves is the extreme importance when you're using a portable camping stove. Never ever ever trust the shut-off cocks on the burners. The reason that I survived 21 years with a loose connection here that somebody, I'm pretty sure, introduced into the stove the day in 1994 when they broke in and made a few phone calls and did a few other things. The reason I survived 21 years was because the very first time the stove went wuff, after I attempted to relight it, half an hour or so after I'd switched it off using the burner's shut-off cocks, first time it went wuff, I decided there must be a leak under there, but surely the pressure would be higher inside the hose than on the downside of the burner than it would be, you know, around the leak. So I just kept on using this stove for 21 years by turning it off at the gas bottle. So the ultimate safety measure when you're using a camping stove in any sort of enclosure, like a hut built on around a lawn locker, is always complete your cooking action, whether it's boiling enough water for a cup of coffee or cooking a, you know, 7-pot meal. Always shut the stove off at the gas bottle. You'll live longer that way, less chance of having a blevy, aka boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. However, now, time to look at what I've gone and bought myself as a new stove for the hut. Feast your little eyeballs on that little lovely. Low pressure 2-burner grill with high speed toaster grill and enamelled grill pan. Comes with a regulator, 2 fast boiling stainless steel burners individually controlled, high speed grill side and rear windshields, each burner 6,000 BTU, British thermal units, and the grill burner's 4,000 BTU, or 2,540 BTU is a horsepower, so 2.5 horsepower per burner and 1.5 for the gorilla. This is kind of funny. Low pressure 2-burner grill is perfect for caravans, camper trailers and boating. It says so on the box. This may be important. It's a low pressure appliance, so if you really had a methane digester and if you really had a gasometer, you could actually theoretically run methane in this thing, even though it's actually only certified for propane. But methane at low pressure, I'm pretty sure you'd just have maybe half the power output, which may have been a factor in me convincing myself that I could afford to pay for it, because it was 2.6 times the price of the standard 2-burner unit, which is $100. Here's a funny thing though. Warning, gas appliances must be used in well ventilated areas. Read the instructions carefully before use. Carbon monoxide hazard. This appliance can produce carbon monoxide which has no odour. Using it in an enclosed space, example caravan, tent, car, mobile home, may cause death. The low pressure 2-burner grill is perfect for caravans, camper trailers and boating. Something of a disconnect between the marketing jism and the legal beagle and briefcase departments, apparently. According to the instruction manual and warranty, it says only use outdoors in well ventilated areas, never use indoors. So I guess that means that the warranty is going to be void right from the start, eh? As I said, not much has changed. Isn't it shiny? And it does come with a griller with trivet and handle, which is retractable, as well as a hose with a regulator with which to connect it to the cylinder. And now I am going to be able to have grilled cheese on toast. Isn't that cute? However, what I can't do on the new modern stove, because of its sloping tops on the windshields, what I can't do on any of the new stoves is what I used to be able to do on the one I had for 37 years, which is to cook corn in the big saucepan, zucchinis, carrots, potatoes and beans in the other saucepans, all while keeping the gravy warm, because the new ones have sloping tops on the windshields. And they might be simpler and easier and cheaper to make, but they do not work as well if you have to live with them. But for all that, the new one looks all bright and shiny. And not only can it do that, it can do that as well. I can grill cheese on toast. Isn't it pretty? And by the way, My solution to the problem of having the gas hose so close to the 120 to 160 degrees Celsius flue of the heater is this thermal curtain, which brings the temperature of the gas hose down to about 29 degrees. So there you go. Consider that to be an evolutionary unboxing of a camping gas stove. Warbles on a lot, YouTube. Ciao.